my gosh. Hey, CRAZYDRE Podcast. That's amazing.
Welcome to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is your main man, a.k.a. Crazy Croc, a.k.a. Andre's Podcast, folks. Hopefully you're at your voting stations. Don't get too upset if your person loses or whatever. There's another 4 years of disappointment or approval. So do that for yourselves. I don't care. Matter of fact, when you're done voting, go fishing. It relaxes you. It really does. And have a beer. Just know the fact that you could be running for president yourself. Well, welcome to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show, folks. Thank you, RSS.com. Thank you, Apple. Thank you, Spotify. Thank you, iBooks. Thank you, people from Argentina. New people from England. My buddy Griff is back on the show. And what is going on, Griff? How you doing?
What's happening, Dre? Thanks for having me back again.
There you go. Thank you for coming. So, folks, we were going to do everything about Isaiah Thomas. But since there's so many new trades that happen, not to mention our favorite team, well, actually, it's your probably second favorite team.
Oh, this is my only team.
Oh, I thought you were a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
No. I lived in Kansas City for a while, but yeah, I'm diehard all my Detroit sports.
Detroit. Here we go, folks. Detroit Lions finally make a trade. Tell us what you think of that trade.
Yeah, phenomenal trade for Detroit. They get one of the best edge rushers in the league for a minimal price, so you can't really beat that. He is already 10 years into the league, so he's not like a long-term solution or anything, but that's not what we need, right? We just need a guy for the rest of the year. And then next year, to have Z along with Aiden next year, I mean, I think that's pretty much unstoppable. And then having Marcus Davenport play in, I mean, that's as good as it gets right there.
Well, this is what you're going to get with this. You're going to get a veteran defensive end guy, not a second year, not a third year. You get a guy that's coming towards the end of his career, a guy that we didn't really have to pay much for because he's coming into this contract. And I don't think that we have to pay him a lot for this year.
Yeah, league minimum.
League minimum, right?
Yeah, I mean, for league minimum for his age, yeah.
Yeah. So think about this. You get a veteran. You get a guy that's been on teams like the Ravens where he started. So now he can end his career with a team with that same type of mentality, but more fun, more excitement, more of a existing pace than where you were with the Browns, where the Browns got rid of everybody. And because Deshaun Watson was hurt, they got rid of Cooper. He's in Cowboy land. And having a guy who's veteran, he can also be a really asset to the rest of the other guys coming off the bench and so on and so forth. He'll just know what to do without being told what to do. And that's very important. You don't have to train him. You don't have to teach him. You don't have to teach him the scheme of the game. But you don't have to keep your eye on him. And I don't think he's got a bad attitude or bad penalties or none of the BS stuff that happened in Detroit with the Packers with Branch. Was it a late hit for Branch? Yes. It took at least 2.5 steps. Guy wasn't going to catch the ball. I think the ball was already bouncing off somewhere. So this is key. And the fact that you still have to pay Hutchinson coming off that rookie contract. So now you're golden. Now you can actually do something. I mean, what do we get? The 25, the 20, Detroit guy.
Yeah, fifth round this year, and then 6th round next year.
Yeah.
And then we had to give up a 7th round as well.
Yeah. So it's not, I mean, we got to steal. I don't know what the Browns are thinking. Browns do the same thing every year for themselves. I mean, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot.
Well, and it seems like the Browns kind of are cleaning house too. You know, I mean, they got rid of Amari Cooper a few weeks back, so they're working on a rebuild process. They're going to be going to a new system, I assume, in the near future as well. I haven't heard anything about Coach, but I think that's what it looks like. It's
Yeah,
They're going for that. The Deshaun Watson experiment did not work. They're going to run with Jameis the rest of the year, unless anything super crazy happens there. But it just didn't work. What the plan was didn't work. So they're gonna try and do a rebuild. So put together as many draft picks as you can. What they'll probably end up doing is use that 7th pick as a part of an extra piece in another trade that moves them up in the draft or possibly picks up another player later. But I would imagine that they're not just holding on to that for hoping for that Tom Brady or Brock Purdy guy to come in. So
yes.
But yeah, I would say that eventually gets packaged together with something else to move up as a higher draft pick.
Okay.
But yeah, Za'Darius Smith really fits the mold for what Dan Campbell's looking for.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. He's already played for Green Bay and Minnesota as well. So he's very familiar with the NFC North. He's really good with contain. So keeping the quarterbacks in the pocket, he'll kind of hold the edge really well. That's one of his better feats that he can do.
Okay.
So yeah, everything about him really good. On his social media, he already hopped on there and had a big bright smile on his face, and he said, "You could take all the brown and orange out of my closet right now. I am on my way, Detroit. Don't worry." So he's happy.
Jeez.
He's happy to be coming into Detroit.
So as long as we keep it in Detroit, do you still feel that it's important for, let's say Detroit makes the Super Bowl, would you play Hutchinson for one game, or would you just we going to keep you just harvesting, just keep resting that leg, keep exercising, keep doing this thing, because I don't want him to come back for one game and then some freak thing happens to his other leg, or in Griff's situation, he busts both legs. And that is something that I do not want to happen. So do you now that you have Smith, and I'll tell you this, Detroit did have a lot of issues without having that edge guy coming off the edge. A lot of teams will be able to run where Hutchinson was able to move the ball down the field a lot faster, even though Hutchinson to me is still not a sack guy. He's more like a hurry up offense guy to make your offense run faster than you want to. But I don't want him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, he had 7.5 sacks. I mean, he was leading the league in sacks. He's still in the top 10 for sacks in the league, even though he's missed a few weeks now.
But it was just
he's definitely a sack guy. One of the things that we talked about before the season started, when we were talking about expectations, was that he had been like a 10-sack guy, and this year he needed to become that 15-sack guy. So he was like the T.J. Watt and the Myles Garrett, and along there with those guys. And at 7.5 in the first 5 weeks, I mean, that's a third of the way. He was on pace for 30 sacks. I wouldn't imagine that he was able to hold that same pace. And of course, he had the 4 in the second game of the season. Mm-hmm. But still, I mean, he definitely could have had 2 sacks in a couple of other games. So he definitely was a sack machine, and that is something that we can look forward to in the future. As your question, though, do I want to bring him back just for the Super Bowl? I think that really, really depends on the situation, too. Mm-hmm. I don't just want to see that Aiden is super hyped and saying, "Ooh, I'm ready, coach. Ooh, I'm ready, coach."
Yeah.
I also want to see that everyone else is healthy. We know that Marcus Davenport is also out now. So bringing in Za'Darius Smith is helpful. Josh Pascal has played very well. You've seen since Aiden Hutchinson has been out, the team is actually even more dominant than they were before.
Everyone's doing their part,
which is crazy. Yeah, so everyone's doing what they need to do, and everyone is stepping in, and they do have a lot of other weapons. So they're bringing in pressures from other places too. I think Aaron Glenn's doing a great job with that. But yeah, taking these awesome leads, if they just continue to crush everyone the same way they're doing, and they get to the Super Bowl doing this, absolutely not. You just leave watch out and let them come back next year.
Yeah.
If they have more injuries to their defensive line, even if it's a defensive tackle, then you can kind of move some guys around, and then maybe you have to if it comes to that kind of situation. But like if Z's getting 2 sacks each game of the playoffs, I'm certainly not taking him out.
No.
And so, I mean, the big question, of course, would be Pascal to see how he's doing over there. And if he's still playing at a very high level, absolutely. If it seems like he's not getting very many pressures, he gets 1 pressure, maybe 2 pressures per game, and you get to the Super Bowl, and it's a lot closer games than what we're seeing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, if Hutch is ready, let Hutch play. I mean, he is. I mean, as good as anyone in the league, right?
Yeah, and he's only
so. I mean, if that's what it is, absolutely bring him back. But yeah, if it's just him saying, "Ooh, coach, I'm ready," and the doctors are kind of saying, "Well, maybe we could hold him for 3 or 4 more weeks at the Super Bowl."
Yeah, that's not.
Then maybe then I mean, you just let it
Just
let
let it roll.
let
Just let it roll. Just sit on the bench.
let sleeping lions lay,
Yeah, exactly.
as you will.
And going to our competitor, the Green Bay Packers, they got killed by Detroit. I was kind of surprised. Well, actually, Love was a little hurt, hamstring problems. You could tell that he cannot move out of the pocket. However, during this week, the Packers are shipping people out to the Steelers, which I find it a little interesting they're doing this now, considering that they still are not. I think
Well,
they still make.
trade.
Yeah, but they're still able to make the playoffs. So by giving up Williams, no, wait a second, that's not right.
Preston Smith. It's the other Smith brother. Remember a few years back, Green Bay had both Za'Darius Smith and Preston Smith. They were calling them the Smith brothers, even though there's no relation at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were so phenomenal together. They were so good when Rodgers was still there. But here goes the second of the Smith brothers.
So do you
packing away?
So do you agree with this? I mean, that the Packers are just trading people off their. I mean, no, wait a second. This is the Steelers and Jets.
Well, that's the only
Jets.
Yeah, I mean that's the only big move right now that the Packers are making, right?
Yeah, but they need defense.
Well, I mean they have Rashawn Gary on the other side. Rashawn Gary's probably their best defensive player right now.
Yeah, but don't you want at least?
I mean that's your big edge rusher. Preston Smith's getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
So you make the move now, and it's kind of same thing here with Za'Darius Smith. Is as he gets closer to the edge, you want to be able to trade him while there is still some value.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean you make a move. Crazy deal for the Steelers. Obviously, they have great pass rushers, but adding a little depth to the room, I think the Steelers are really winning today.
Yeah, because they got Mike Williams from the Jets, which I find it interesting why they did that because they traded for Devontae Adams, and you can still have Williams on the other side. So I don't know if that means that Devontae Adams was saying, I need to touch the ball more, and you're still throwing the ball to Williams. Because that's a little bit queenish.
No. The Jets have a few guys better than Mike Williams.
Oh.
So Garrett Wilson is the number one.
Oh, Garrett, yeah, you're right. Garrett Wilson is better.
Yeah, he's the big stud.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
And then you have, excuse me, then you have the Devontae Adams. But yeah, they've got options out there. Alan Lazard is hurt right now, but we saw the connection with Alan Lazard. We kind of thought that Mike Williams might be that guy instead of Lazard.
Oh yeah, you did that. You did say that.
But it could have been part of the familiarity.
Yeah, you said that.
Lazard had. Yeah, they just with time together. That might be part of it. But yeah, I would say that when Lazard does come back, those three are phenomenal. But then Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, they're both good pass catchers too. Mm-hmm. And then Tyler Conklin has had a breakout year this year. He's been fantastic all season.
I know.
If he's available on your fantasy football leagues, you should take a look.
I had him on my team, and I dropped him because I thought, hey, looks like Komet is doing pretty well, but it looks like Caleb Williams is looking like poop again.
Oh.
So
yeah, well, and he'll be inconsistent all season too, right? I mean, that comes along with being a rookie quarterback, but
well, it's still.
but yeah, Komet has definitely had a really nice connection with Williams so far this year.
Yeah. So moving, who else is that we got to talk about on the Cowboys? Here's a weird trade. The Cowboys trade the 4th round draft pick for Jonathon Mingo of
wide receiver from the Panthers, bringing him over.
Yeah.
The Cowboys need help. You know, I mean, they've got Turpin, they've got some guys who are kind of playing in that second role behind Lamb. But yeah, I think Mingo moves right in there.
Do you think that's going to help the Cowboys? Because the Cowboys look like. Did you see that video?
Well, and Dak's going to be out for several weeks now.
Yeah.
So you got Cooper Rush. When Dak first hurt his ankle, Cooper Rush came in and he played very, very well.
Yeah, he did play better.
So we could see good things. I think the big difference is that at that point in time, the Cowboys had a much better offensive line. I think 4 of the 5, they had all 5 guys were first round picks at one point, but I think at that point in time, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen were first round picks. But at any rate, I think Cook's going to be okay, but that team's already been struggling, so they're not gonna start losing because of Rush.
No.
They still need to put together a run game though, and I did not see anything happen today for another running back. They went in, they got Dalvin Cook a couple weeks ago, and Cook's kind of built himself up ready to play, but yeah, he only had like 2.3 yards per carry against or with the Jets last season.
Yeah, I think
it's time for him. Rico Dowdle's kind of shown us what he can do, and that's what he can do. And Zeke is right at the edge there. You know, he still has some great explosive moves. I mean, he was so phenomenal for so long, but yeah, it seems like they just got to have someone. They don't have it. But yeah, if you can't run, why not add an extra receiver and see if you can't do some passing? So
well, yeah. I mean, I just think that Dallas needs to stop trading, and they need to flush the toilet, and that means get rid of everybody, and that means probably you have to. I mean, they signed Dak Prescott to a huge deal, but I think they're going to have to do a Herschel Walker moment when they just get rid of.
Well, but they can't. I mean, they can't do a Herschel Walker moment.
Yeah, I know.
But obviously that's not there anymore. But
no, but I mean, like Herschel. I mean, like the problem with the Cowboys is Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. He's now what the problem was with Detroit. The Ford family knew nothing and did everything incorrectly. Yes, they drafted Barry Sanders and Billy Sims, a lot like how the Cowboys used to be back in the day when they drafted Herschel Walker, and then when Jerry Jones came to town, he traded Herschel Walker. Everyone flipped out, but then the team was turned around. And
but that wasn't Jerry Jones. That was Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, Jerry got there, but when Jimmy got there, that's when all that went down.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy thing, and it worked. And then Jimmy Johnson tried to do it again in Miami. it just wasn't the same. Ricky Waters did great, but
Ricky Waters
or Ricky Williams.
Yeah, Ricky Williams was on too many.
Ricky Waters was Seattle, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Ricky Williams was smoking too much weed in Miami. So he really was. But look, the Commanders get a key quarterback from the Saints, Marshon.
Marshon Lattimor.
Lattimor,
huge,
that's huge there. The Commanders are 7-2. That might be one of the Detroit Lions playoff competitors.
Yeah, they're right there with the Eagles. We'll see who ends up winning the division between those two, but I think we're pretty much looking at just those two now. I don't think Dallas is really
No,
going to be able to hold in there. I mean, they're already 3-6 now, so
Yeah, they're done.
so I think they're cooked. I think the Giants just don't have the roster. That's why you hold on to your $12 million running back and you get rid of your $40 million quarterback. Just
As a good insight, as a multi-fantasy football guy, Griff, should listen to Griff. He's got he's got like 500 teams that he's running.
In the Hard Knock show, that's what the head dog for the Giants said was, you don't pay a $40 million quarterback to hand off to a $12 million running back.
Yeah, well,
so they decided to keep Daniel Jones and drop Saquon Barkley. But that's obviously that's not what you do.
No, that's the dumbest. Yeah, I mean,
when you have a once in a generational talent, you just build a team to work around him.
Yeah,
their defense is playing so well right now. You'd think that if they had a running back that could really just control the clock, that would be so hopeful. But I mean, talking about Tracy, and we don't need to go into that too deep. But the running backs have been admirable while playing out there. But yeah, they need to beef up the offensive line still, and they just need better quarterback play. I mean, Malik Neighbors is so good. Darius Slayton has had so much success out there as well. If you could just, you got to be able to move the ball down the field better.
Do you know any top players that you would either tell the audience to drop, and do you have players that you said you got to go get and just go get them because these guys aren't working? And just a general information, not like key teams and key.
Yeah, well, and I think the biggest one is the trade that we're not talking about is with the Bears and the Bengals trading Khalil Herbert. I think Herbert's going to come in and he's going to be the number one running back for the Bengals. And I think that on that team, he could be a lot closer to what Joe Mixon was.
Wait a second.
So I think that's the biggest one to look out for. Khalil Herbert has been the third string in Chicago all season. So Rashawn Johnson is the guy who's really been getting the goal line touches. But DeAndre Swift was brought in on the free agent contract, and they thought he was going to be the guy. Khalil Herbert's still working on his rookie contract, so they're trying to put their guys out there that have the money. But I think Herbert's going to come in, and he'll play just as well as Zach Moss and Chase Brown. So I think that's your guy.
But why would Zach Moss and
Chase Brown? Yeah, they're not
really doing anything.
They're not doing as much as what they need to do to have a consistent run game. It's different because with the Bengals they had Joe Mixon last year, and
I'm just surprised how. I mean, you're right. I was surprised about Mixon. I thought Mixon was kind of like the guy that would get hurt, and yeah, he did get hurt this year. And I didn't really think he was that great because I thought he was always like not doing or key points, not getting those extra yards. But he's really, he completely made me incorrect 100,000%.
As soon as he joined the league, I said, nope. And every year I just expect him to not do well. But to do okay, but I just never expected him to be a top 10 running back.
No, me either.
Every year he's a top 10 running back. So he just keeps proving me wrong. He's the Curtis Martin is always the example I go back to. Is every year when you have Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and all these legendary running backs, no one really ever talked about Curtis Martin. He just kind of did the average, right? He always had over 1,000 yards, but he never got hurt. He just went out there, played. He didn't have the crazy jukes. He didn't have the super powerful knockovers like Emmitt had. But he just kept going out there. He kept running every week, and then he became a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I'm not saying that Joe Mixon's going to be that because he's just not. He's not quite Curtis Martin, but in a similar kind of way, Joe's had a few injuries where for a couple of weeks he's out each year. But yeah, the guy just keeps chugging away. I think he's only like 28 right now.
Yeah.
So he still might have another year after this one too.
Maybe,
But yeah, the Texans have a really good offensive line. So, and obviously teams have to look out for the pass with C.J. Stroud. Nico Collins should be coming back. Stephon Diggs is, of course, out, but Collins should be coming back. Tank Dell's out there. Robert Woods showed a little bit of life again. Robert Woods is a league winner in fantasy leagues for years, where like no one was taking him, and so he was getting like 8th, 9th, 10th round, being drafted, sometimes even 12th round before he's getting drafted. But he was putting up 3rd and 4th round wide receiver numbers. Like it was a huge thing for him every year. And he's getting older now, and he's had some injuries, and he's not the same player. So when he was on the bench with Texans, that's right. But with all the injuries that they had, though, I mean, showed very serviceable. He's a good pass catcher, still runs good routes.
He's kind of like your 6th man or maybe 7th, 8th man in the basketball team, where he's not coming off the bench right away, but when people get hurt, he comes in and he knows how to do it.
Plays his role and he gets things done.
He does. He just
good veteran in the locker room.
He's a great veteran. So, are there any other, like, say, key points of quarterbacks, anybody, wide receivers? I mean, clearly you want to start Davante Adams for sure now that he's got his rust off him. How about, like, say, Detroit's Raymond or the other guy, Travis or Trent?
Well, and I don't think you really have to look too deep into those. We also saw Sam Laporta got his touchdown 2 weeks ago on tight ends week.
Yeah.
But Jameson Williams has been out the last 2 weeks for the suspension, but then he comes back next week. Yeah. So I think that Raymond, Laporta, everyone pulls it back. I'm such a huge fan of Laporta. I had him in 4 leagues this year. And that is just not happening.
He's got an ankle injury and knee injury that they're not actually playing. So I am a diehard watch Detroit Lion. I'm write notes and watch him, and then I go berserk on my own brain. And then I sometimes would just talk about Detroit on my own by myself on a podcast. So one thing I've noticed about him is that when he does catch the football in the past, this year, because he didn't recover from his injury from last year completely 100%. He picks himself up, but he still has that limp. And his ankle isn't really that. It's more of his lower leg than his upper leg. So when you watch him get up, you can see that his ankle leg is real tender. So I don't think that I don't think he'll recover from that injury until the season's over. But I do think that if you don't have a tight end, and you might want to play right for Detroit. So if you're, let's say, a guy that has a tight end and all the tight ends are taken and nothing's happening and you're desperate, Wright might be that guy that will give you maybe a game or two that's good, but he's not going to help you win your league.
I wouldn't switch off to the Detroit tight ends, and I think part of that, and exactly what you're saying though with the injuries with Laporta, that's absolutely a big part of it.
Yeah.
But I think also they're just trying to establish that run even more. They already have maybe the best offensive line in the league, at least top 2, if not the number 1. But you can see if you're watching these games, they're pushing these defensive lines back. They're so good. But what they're doing in addition to the offensive line is they're adding Brock Wright and Sam Laporta, and they're just making it 7 offensive line.
Yeah.
And then they're just pushing them all. So Laporta's becoming more of a blocker, where last year he was more of a receiver as well. And I think that depending on how Jameson Williams comes back here, if he can still kind of do what he's been doing this season, then they're just going to let him keep going out and making the catches. Jahmyr Gibbs is taking over a little more as well in a pass-catching role. And so a lot of those targets are the targets that used to go to Laporta last year as a rookie. And so I think that as those guys continue to excel, Laporta's going to continue to be more and more of a blocker. And then just the occasional moment he might get another touchdown or 2 this season. But I think that I'm moving on from Laporta. I think that it's probably time that we do that. for everyone. But as far as other tight ends to look for, and like I said, I wouldn't go for Brock Wright, even though I myself picked up Brock Wright in leagues that I have Sam Laporta. Just in the event that he actually misses a week, then I think if Laporta is not out there at all, Brock Wright might be a nice option to be the only tight end out there. But if you're looking for other tight ends, I definitely go Jonathon Smith in Miami. Has been very good. If for whatever reason K-Don isn't picked up yet, somebody needs to pick up K-Don, so make it you. K-Don, I think right now is 5th overall in tight end numbers. He's usually a guy that falls a little short, and then he is that 1 week pickup guy. But that's the guy that you want to pick up, and you just want to start him every week the rest of the season. So he is really there. With Tampa Bay, especially with Chris Godwin out the rest of the year, and especially while Mike Evans is still out, K-Don has been the number 1 receiving threat. Mike should come back in another week or two. They have their bye week coming up, and then after that, he should be back. And when he comes back, I think Cade still is the number 2 receiving threat for him. He'll get lots and lots of targets still. But after K-Don, after Jonathon Smith, that's where like the Tyler Conklin might be a good option. And then who was the other tight end I wanted to mention?
What team does it play for?
I know I got to put it back together here in my head, but anyway, those are some great options for you. I might think of another tight end here for you in a minute, but
not going through the games, just the team. Buffalo Bills. What are they? Anybody that you could see them picking up because of that whole? I mean, Shakir, is his name Shakir?
Khalil Shakir.
Are there any other players that people could pick up on that team because maybe Shakir will be double coverage?
Well, we're kind of out of time for that now too. So,
based on what? Just
there's the trade deadline.
No, but I'm saying for people to pick up players.
As far as fantasy, like another wide receiver.
For anybody
from Buffalo.
Like anybody, any player, anybody.
I don't think so. I think with Amari Cooper going there, I mean, I think that he's taken most of the targets there that they had been missing out on before. So with Stephon's leaving, but yeah, with him with the tight ends Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, which Dawson Knox might be that other tight end that I didn't mention just a moment ago. If he's still available, you could play him for a week or two. But yeah, I'm not sure if I would lean on the other receivers in Buffalo there. Josh Allen still does an awful lot on his feet, and then James Cook also does a lot with the pass game as well. So I think for that one, I would avoid the other wide receivers.
Here's a fun stat. With Jim Harbaugh going to Chargers, he is right now 5-3. Chargers last year were 5-12 or something. With Michigan was 7-4, and then he turned around to 10-3. San Francisco was similar to that. So there must be something going on with Jim Harbaugh's khaki pants or water he drinks, because it seems like everything. I don't know how he does it, but he just turns things around in a heartbeat, and his team isn't that together yet. I mean, Justin Herbert's still hurt, but he's playing. His wideouts are not even that phenomenal. The running game isn't pretty good, but there's just it's like a bunch of no-namers, I guess, on that team, and it's just pretty good.
And there's a lot of young talent, and so like you were just saying, is there another wide receiver from Buffalo that you take? For like a 1 week thing for a bye week? I think that the Chargers are a team that you look to for that. It would be Quentin Johnson. Who was a second-year guy, first-round pick last year. And then Ladd McConkey was their top wide receiver pick out of the draft this year. And those are your top 2 wide receivers. I have been totally shocked I told you that I used to live in Kansas City for a while. I moved back up here, and then just a few years later, Jim Harbaugh took over as the head coach for U of M.
Yeah.
And people started saying after the second year that Harbaugh was garbage and he was no good and they can't win with him and he's got, he can't beat Ohio State. Well, yes, it took a while to beat Ohio State, but he instantly changed that team.
Yeah, that team.
And he made them a 10-win team,
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah, I mean.
And, you hadn't had anyone do that since Lloyd Carr when you won the national championship 25 years earlier.
Yeah.
So I couldn't understand why people were saying that they needed to get rid of him. Everyone wanted to drop him.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, it's the same thing when he was at San Diego, the college.
Yeah.
And then when he went to Stanford immediately went right to the Rose Bowl. And then for San Francisco, immediately they were a 13-3 team. They were ready for the Super Bowl. With Michigan, immediately a 10-win team, eventually won the national championship. Right now, I don't see anything different. I think we talked about this as well before the season started, how the Chargers had so much talent on that team, but they couldn't win a game last year.
Yeah.
It was just, you have Khalil Mack, you had Eric Kendricks last year, which he's in Dallas now, but and then
they have the guy, and then the Bears has that other wideout that used to be with San Diego or LA Chargers.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah,
Keenan Allen. Well, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams that we talked about earlier. You had all these great defensive guys. Joey Bosa is still there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you possibly lose Derwin James out there? There was so much talent. Like, how can they lose all these games? I was just baffled every week. And, of course, it had to be coaching because there was nothing else that made sense. And so to have Harbaugh there and right now be 5-3, they have the best defense in the league.
Here's the question. What makes it good? What are the things that a good coach does to make a team win? Where a bad team, with a good team with a bad coach, is obvious. You almost have to go through the same. Like you go through your practices, you go through the video, you do all this other stuff. So what's the formula? I don't get how you could be
how can Harbaugh do this and everyone else can't?
Yeah, I don't get how.
Well, and immediately the big things that you see, and it's kind of interesting because Jim Harbaugh's a quarterback.
Yeah.
And you would think that he would be a quarterback guy.
Yeah.
Coming up as a quarterback coach and all that.
Yeah.
But the thing with Harbaugh, immediately everywhere he goes, the defense becomes elite.
Yeah.
And they start to put together a run game.
Yeah.
And so right now, even J.K. Dobbins is having the best year of his career. Now, he's had injuries for the last 5 years, and his only real season that he played the whole year was his rookie year. But whatever's happening out there, he's making that run game succeed. And so that's partly play calling, partly in scheming, how you set up the plays. But then on defense, I think that's a big part of it is being able to get your defensive players into a certain state of mind. He's a great motivator, like Dan Campbell for the local guys. Right?
Yeah, of course.
But Harbaugh, he'll get right in there in your face and he'll get you going. But being able to call the right play, to have the defender go into the correct gap, all of those things that we don't really see that they work on all week.
Yeah.
And then in the gameplay to be able to see what he does. And then in the second half, you get even better to make the adjustments in the game. All huge things that Harbaugh does and always has.
Yeah, that's just, to me, it's just weird how he does that. It's just not just weird for him just to do that, but how a mediocre coach can be so bad with so much talent. And I think a lot of it has to do with never playing in the league or never playing in that sport.
Well, and to be able to see, some of these guys, Anthony Lynn, Brandon Stokely, these guys weren't head coaches before, right? you can have a great offensive scheme, you can have a great defensive scheme, but as a coordinator, you really don't see that really work as a head coach most of the time, right? So most of the time, those coordinators have to go back, and they have to go back to being the coordinators rather than as the head coaches. And even some of the really, really great ones, right? Like Wade Phillips, Romeo Cornell. Some of these guys, they were so good, and those guys are defensive examples. But, I mean, elite defenses, every year they're a defensive coordinator. And then whenever it's time for them to come up and be the head coach, their team has a good defense, but they can't put together the offense.
Yeah.
And so some guys just need to be coordinators. We'll see about Anthony Lynn and so. I mean, they'll have more other opportunities in the future, I'm sure. But it's kind of curious to see that. But some guys, they can move into the head coach role and just really, really excel, like the Harbaugh, like the Belichick, like the Andy Reid.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a different. I mean, obviously John Harbaugh as well.
Yeah, John. Well, I think, to me personally, I think Jim is better coach than John, just because Jim's able to go bounce from one division to the next division. It's like going to the WCW and going to the WWE. All you underwear people that like throwing each other around the ring. I don't know why people still watch people in their underwear throw each other around. It's just a little bizarre.
Hard to argue with the amount of time that John Harbaugh has continued to succeed with the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ozzy, I think, is one of the best GMs in the whole league that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And just keeps putting together fantastic teams. But yeah, I mean, John Harbaugh, I mean, he's as good as Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the
Right.
better.
He's probably the greatest head coach
And then,
right now.
I mean, like Mike Tomlin and
Mike Tomlin will go
Harbaugh
down.
right there.
Mike Tomlin, to me, how many Super Bowls has he won? 1, 2?
2.
I think, to me, Tomlin needs to win one more to be considered probably the greatest AFC coach of all time. And I will say that because
Greatest AFC coach of all time.
AFC is a division. I think, to me, I think the greatest coach of all time for the NFC is Jimmy Johnson. Not Lombardi. I know Lombardi. I know, but think about this. Jimmy Johnson won 3 Super Bowls, 3 in a row. Who does that? No one did that besides Kansas.
I mean, but you're talking about like five good years total.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's a college coach.
Yeah.
Who had extreme success immediately when he went to the NFL. But then, I mean, he didn't really keep that together in Miami.
No, because Jimmy Johnson kicked him out.
Jimmy Johnson.
No,
oh, you mean
Jones.
Jerry Jones?
Jerry Jones.
Well, no, because
that's another argument.
But he wasn't able to do the same thing in Miami.
No.
Right, and Miami has great coaches, right? I mean, Don Shula,
probably
I think, is the great AFC coach
of all time.
And then Bill Belichick kind of came in, and I think that he's got to be the number one spot. But I think Don Shula still has the all-time record for most wins.
Yeah,
as a head coach.
Yeah. I would.
But for Mike Tomlin, this is 18 years now as the head coach.
Yeah,
this is his 19th season. I think
it doesn't matter. He's almost 20 years.
But yeah, in all of his time though, he's never had a losing season. So like you can't even have like injuries or something that happened that like something caused your team to go 7-9 one year.
Yeah,
never. 8-8 is the worst that you've ever done.
Yeah,
that's just. I mean,
he seems to know.
Hard to argue with that. Yeah.
Tomlin seems to know how to get all 53 players, and let's say 20 of them are not that good, but he knows how to tell them to do something that they're good at. Yeah. That's what I think he's good at. He doesn't have the best team, but he knows how to put 20 guys who are not that good that would not make it on other teams. And that's why a lot of these players who are semi-retiring, semi-not great, go to Tomlin. And then Tomlin seems to tell him, okay, all I want you to do is stand here. This is your zone. Do not let babies or elephants or the other guy on the other team leave this spot. This is your spot. You stay here. Don't go over there. You stay here. This is your spot. I think that's what he's really good at. A lot of great defenses, what I've noticed, is that they don't all just chase the ball. They stay in their pockets. A lot like hockey. In hockey, you have to stay in your pockets. You have to stay in your zone. So if the puck goes to the other side, you still have the defense coming this way. Same thing with great defensive teams. I love one of my favorite things about football is defense. So what I've noticed about defense in football is that even with Dan Campbell's team, even with Don Shula, Tom Landry, all those guys, they tell them you stick to your spot. And when that play breaks down, those guys are coming back in your zone. That's when you tackle. And that's one, in Belichick, I remember him saying this on the N.F.L. network. He told his players the same thing without saying that. He said, "Listen, you know how Belichick is. Well, yeah, talk about this. It's just throw it there. You just say,
yeah, I mean, Belichick was as good as anyone.
Yeah, and he didn't speak loud unless he cussed you out in practice.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin is very, very good at having everyone coming in and getting the best on his players.
Yeah.
Ryan Clark actually talked about it before the game last week.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Russell Wilson and how, when he went to Denver, it was all about, let's ride. And he was all ready to go, and he was the team leader, and he thought he was the guy. But that's the thing. He's not the guy. Sean Payton's the guy, right, out there in Denver. And so here in Pittsburgh, I mean, we already saw that Justin Fields got the start at the beginning of the year. But now, since Russell Wilson's been in there, he's not talking about any of that stuff. He's not doing that. He's just out here saying, we're going to go out here, we're going to give everything we got, we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And he's sticking to the script. But that's something that Ryan Clark was saying, though. I think it was pregame. But Ryan Clark, of course, one of the all-time great defensive backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
But what he was saying was that when you're in that locker room, he doesn't care. If you have a personality, you can have a personality. You can go and you can do your thing. But who runs that locker room? Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
And that is Mike Tomlin's building. Everyone knows as soon as you step in there, that's Mike Tomlin's space.
And your ego is
and you are in it. That is it. And that's why, like, when Antonio Brown and some of those guys started having issues, they got shipped.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're the best wide receiver in the league. You're gone.
Yeah.
And every single person in Pittsburgh knows that's Mike Tomlin's space.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like what Dan Campbell's doing in Detroit, where he's like the alpha lion, and he's going to pounce around the room and tell them, you guys are still good, but you're not. You got to do your stuff. Two more topics. Tom Brady criticizing the referees during the Detroit Lions game. I wonder how much longer he's going to be in the broadcasting station, because he's going to probably accidentally talk about bad refereeing, because he used to cuss and swear at the referees during the games himself. So could this be the end of Tom Brady's TV acting job? Does this mean he joins the Manning brothers, just conversational football without watching football, or watching football without paying attention to every play? Is this over?
No. So he can't go into broadcasting anywhere else if he ends up not doing this. The issue isn't so much that he said something about the refs.
Mm.
That's okay for anyone else in the broadcast booth, and what he said was not that bad.
No, but
and it wasn't that he really said, like, oh no, these refs are idiots. That's not what it is.
No,
he was just saying, oh, I don't agree with that at all. This is what I'm seeing, and this is the way that I think that it is. The issue is that this year he went out and he took on a partial ownership of the Raiders. And as a partial owner, you can't say those things.
No.
So, Yeah, I mean, we'll see if he continues to do this. I would imagine that as part owner of the Raiders, he's making a pretty penny there, and he doesn't have to do a lot of work for it. So that's probably great. He's definitely done more endorsement deals since leaving New England, but really even since he retired. So he's making great money from those, and then the residuals for all those commercials as they keep going. So I don't think that he's too worried about the money or anything moving forward. So I don't think that he needs to do this job. It's just kind of something that everyone wanted him to do because they thought he would be great at coming out, kind of like how Tony Romo first came in, and just immediately he was reading the defenses and he was saying, "Oh no, the defense is about to do this. This is where the offense should go. This is the way that they should audible. Make this happen." And he was exactly right every time, and it was so great. And that's why he got the job with Jim Nantz, working as the top guy for CBS. They're kind of thinking that Tom Brady was going to be able to do the same thing because his mind, his IQ is so sharp on football IQ. But yeah, it is something that obviously he's always had a little bit of issue with refs.
I remember him cussing and swearing.
Well, and
the football player.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I'm not worried about him, using profanity or anything. But
I know.
but yeah, for him to just say, "I don't agree with that. This is what I'm seeing. This is the way that I think it is." If you can't say that as a broadcaster, I don't think you can do your job as a broadcaster.
No.
So I don't think that they're going to let him go, or I don't think he'll quit in the middle of the season here.
Nope.
But yeah, I mean, if you can't do that, you can't effectively broadcast. You have to be able to say, in this instance, I don't agree with the referees.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be as cordial and polite as possible. Just in this instance, I don't agree with the referees, and that's breaking your contract with being the minority owner. I mean,
I don't see him doing this much longer because of being the owner of the Raiders, and I kind of wonder.
Or you could drop that.
Well, if he only owns
right and just sell the shares back out,
how much does he even own of that? Maybe like 20%.
Oh no, yeah, really small.
See, that reminds me of the rapper Jay-Z owning in Brooklyn. He only owned 10%, but in reality, he was not making pennies of the dollar of it. So to me, I feel it's kind of stupid for him to own a Raider team, where I could actually see him going into buying shares of the Patriots. To me, that is much more hypothetically could happen in a couple of years. Last note, we're running up almost an hour. Our offense corner in Detroit, Ben Johnson, there's been stories of last year of him wanting to go to the Bears, be the head coach. Any possibility you think he'll still leave Detroit? Do you think he's got it too good to be true? And do you think that Detroit will still just end up paying him like, hey, you can stay here as long as you want. Why did you want him to go to a division team and we're going to kick your ass?
Well, and I think that there were probably like 28 teams interested in Ben Johnson last year.
Yeah, of course.
So even more so than last year, what he's shown with just trick play after trick play and all the things that are working for him. These are all the things that made Sean Payton famous when he was a young coach. Of course, he was already head coach at that point. But I really think that Ben Johnson's the guy that's saving Dan Campbell's bacon. I'm still not totally sold on Dan Campbell.
Thank you.
I know I'm the last guy left in Detroit.
I agree with you because I think to me you're saying, this is what I think the way you're saying. Dan Campbell is a great motivator in the locker room, but you put him on the football field with the playbooks. Doesn't matter if it's offense or defense playbook, and his situational timeout system that he doesn't understand that. As of a couple weeks ago or last year, I think without Ben Johnson, this team would probably be 6-3, 6-4, just because Dan Campbell doesn't know enough about how to make play calls. And I still think the defensive coordinator for Detroit, if he didn't have those points, the way that Ben Johnson's been helping Jared Goff, I still think Jared Goff might be the MVP, but he would not be the MVP without Ben Johnson next to him. I just don't see it. I think he had the same. To me, I think Goff has a confidence issues without a great offense coordinator being 3-4 steps ahead in the chess game. And I think you're right. I just think that Dan Campbell is a great locker room coach. He's a great motivator. He'll chop your legs off. You get up. You chop the other leg off. You get up. How he chopped
my legs along.
Look at Griff. He chopped his leg off. I'm sure Campbell accidentally chopped off Hutchinson's leg, but it just happened on the football field instead of practice. No one knows. You just made that up. Do not take that too hard. It's a joke.
Well, and I mean, I do want Dan Campbell on my coaching staff.
Yeah. I think he's a great.
I think he's a great motivator in that sense. But yeah, the issues with time management, the issue with the value of points in crucial situations,
Going on fourth down.
I think those are huge things.
Situational fourth down.
But part of the thing is that he's had a tremendous amount of success going for it on fourth down. But he's the one who's making the decision to go for it on fourth down or to punt or to kick the field goal.
Of course.
And he's the one that makes that decision. But once he says, we're going to go for it on fourth down, then it's Ben Johnson who comes up with the fourth down play and says, okay, let's try this one. Let's see if it works. And it works a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
And I think that it's given Dan Campbell a little extra hope that he can just keep doing that.
Yeah.
But it's not always going to work, right? That's what we saw against San Francisco. That's what we saw against Tampa Bay earlier this year.
Yeah.
That's our one loss.
Exactly.
Once again, Campbell did it.
Exactly.
But these last few games, though, they've just been crushing it so much.
So they don't need to do
that. There's no position for it. So do you say that that's on Campbell or is that on everything else? So I'm not totally sold on Aaron Glenn either. I really like Aaron Glenn. He was one of my favorite defensive backs in the 90s when he was with the Jets. I loved watching him play. I think he's fantastic. I think he is a very good coach. I'm not totally sold on him as a great defensive coordinator, but I think that Brett Holmes has put so much talent on that defense.
Well, I think
that they're just going to succeed.
I do think this. I think Brad Holmes has put so much talent on that team. But I think that one thing that they fixed, or they're continually getting better, is the cornerback, safety, D-back thing, because that's what hurt Detroit in the 90s, and that's what hurt Detroit through the whole last 50 years, is that they always had a good defense until a certain point. Of course, you had Barry Sanders, Billy Sims, ran like hell until you.
Well, in the 90s, they needed more defense.
Yeah, they did, but you got to remember, like, I just feel like Aaron Glenn, I think he's making the right calls now because he has the talent on that team. I think it'd be really difficult for him and myself, even though I'm a defensive guy, if I didn't have those guys, like Lazera or the Italian Lazera. Oh, God.
Alex Anzalone.
Yeah, the guy that looks like he looks like maybe like a Greek god. But per kid and Rodriguez and those guys. And Rodriguez, you know, people thought he was going to be really, really great as a linebacker, but he doesn't always start the games, comes off the bench, kind of like Isaiah Stewart for Detroit Pistons, if you know anything about Detroit. But with that, Detroit, with the offense that is scoring so many points, it really helps the defense not have to sit on the field on play for so long. And I think when you have your defense on the field too long, it can wear and tear you out. Doesn't matter if you're the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s and the 49ers in the 80s. You've watched all those games. The defense was hardly ever out there because the offense was doing their thing. In Detroit, with two running backs, a quarterback that 82%, he went for 18 one week, And then the following week, he didn't throw in I think they have another stat for a while that they had more completed passes.
Oh, he's still on. They have 25 touchdowns and 20 incompletions.
Yeah.
Right now over the last 5 games.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Aaron Glenn. I think one thing about Dan Campbell is this: he knows how to put confidence in his coaching staff, and I think that's what's key about him. Nowadays, he's not only a great coach for the players in the locker room and during practice and reviews and all this, but he's a great coach for his coaching staff because he could have got rid of Aaron Glenn last year or the year before. I think it was the year before that. Yeah, he could have got rid of Aaron Glenn along with the safety coach that we did when they were started 1-6. He got rid of the D-back coach. He could have got rid of Glenn himself, but he didn't. So that's something that Dan Campbell's really good at. He's the general, and he's got good lieutenants, and his lieutenants are the soldiers are the players, and the soldiers and the players and everything works together. So we're going to leave it at that because we could go on and on. Anything else, top of your head, you want to express thoughts, ideas? Do we want to talk about Isaiah Thomas? How he might be better than your buddy Michael Jordan? Next week.
Maybe
Next week. We're not doing this tonight. But do you want to try to do Isaiah Thomas? Maybe bring in Larry Bird, Magic, maybe the old timers, and then we can go
a little 80s basketball
on next week. Because we started it with just proving that Michael Jordan is not the greatest basketball player anymore, thanks to Griff.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness we still top 25 or so.
Oh my God! He's I don't like you, Mike.
He's got to be top 10, right? He's got to be top 10.
I don't like you, Mike, but you're in the top 5 now. I would have said top 1 until Griff proved me wrong left and right.
Definitely top 5 shooting guard in the 90s.
Yeah. Right. And probably the best competitor of all time. Saying that. I'm sticking up for you, Mike. Be nice to Isaiah Thomas. All right? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to us.
Peace, love, RSS, thank you. Spotify's, Apple, iBooks, anyone that's in England, Argentina, even people in Turkey are listening. Thank you. Thank you, Griff, for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me, Trent.
We'll chat some other time. NBA maybe next week. I don't know. Who knows? We'll think of something. All right, folks. Bye.